When it comes to gimbals, you're pretty much spoiled for choice, so what better way than to make that decision process even more difficult by DJI announcing not just one new gimbal, but two at the same time. And here we are. So here we are, the new Ronins. This is the RS2, this is the RSC2. What's the difference? Well, the RS2 has got carbon fiber axis arms. Oh, it looks so lovely, and I believe this is a world's first to have carbon fiber axis arms. It makes it quite light when you take off this tripod thingamajig. It's actually much lighter than the previous Ronins. Those ones, when you put a camera on it, it feels like you're tearing yourself a new bumhole when you're lifting it up. This one is quite a manageable weight. I mean, I can hold down like this and my puny arms don't start to shake when I'm doing so. And presumably that has quite a bit to do with the carbon fiber axis arms, but also you can put a 1DX Mark III on it with a 24-70 lens. So not bad, right? Whereas what we have here on my left, on your right, is the RSC2, which is also light. I mean, when we take this thing off, it's very similar in weight, actually. I don't know if there's a difference. It's probably a slight difference. But in terms of payload, RSC2 will take a Panasonic S1H with a 24-70 lens, which is quite a hefty camera and lens setup. So yeah, it can handle quite a fair payload. Another thing I noticed when I was charging both of these up is that the grip on the RSC2 is integrated, so I couldn't take the grip off to charge it. With the RS2, you can unlock it here. So the idea with the RS2 is that you can mount it on smaller setups or bigger setups on car mounts, jibs, sliders, etc, etc. The RS2 has got NATO ports on both sides, so you can hold it with both hands, or you can use it in briefcase mode, or you can connect a monitor or use your iPhone with it. You've got time-lapse and panorama modes, but I think it's cool that you can control it with the app using joystick, force mobile for Stevie Wonder style moves, and even use a PS4 or Xbox controller. Okay, let's lock that in place. Switch it on. And that's actually a fairly decent size screen for a gimbal, 1.4 inch, and it's touchscreen. That's pretty handy. I mean, given that it's a small screen, it's big enough to not be too fiddly to thumb it and to press it, scroll it. Okay, let's balance the RS2. So it's got the locking on each axis, which is pretty much standard on gimbals these days. So let's get this plate off. Just like the Manfrotto and Arca plates, it's a 2-layer mounting plate system. And this bit is really good. Let me show you. This bit here, this bit's fantastic. So usually when you're adjusting the mounting plates on the gimbal, you have to use your fingers and kind of push it very slightly. But with this, you've got a little knob here. We love knobs for very fine adjustments. Why didn't anybody think of that before? That makes it very easy, especially if you're changing cameras, changing lenses. And by the way, if you're just taking off the camera for, say, transporting it, as it's a dual layer butt plate, you can take just the top butt bit of it off without messing with the already balanced main part of the plate. So you don't have to, use your fingers to push it, which is not always as precise. Ideally, I would like to live in a world where you spend 0 time having to balance a gimbal, but this will have to do. With the app, you can do a balance test just to make sure everything is correct and balls I don't have the tilt balance properly. Now, the big thing with the RSC2 is that it's got a foldable design, so you can either fold it to A4 size or A5 size, depending on what paper size you like. Okay, here we go. Oh, that's stiff. What was that? Is that A4 or A5? There you go. I think that's A4 size. And then with the RSC2, you've got 6 modes of operation. And the RSC2 doesn't have the carbon fiber axis arms, and the screen on this is smaller. You can see there's like a little letterbox, a 1-inch screen compared to that 1.4 inch touchscreen. This is not a touchscreen on the RSC2. But in terms of battery life, the RSC2 is actually longer, 14 hours on the RSC2 versus 12 hours on the RS2, and they both have a charging time of 1.5 hours. But otherwise, they're quite similar in terms of the structure. They've got the focus wheel here, the trigger, that feels the same. The little pad, sticky thing, record button, M button, and they've got NATO ports on both sides of the handle, as well as the dual layer Manfrotto Arca butt plate thing. One big difference is that it doesn't have the fine tuning of the butt plate that you get on the RS2. Okay, so I've just charged the Raven Eye image transmission system right here. That's the little box of tricks here. Tricky old AF sticky. It's got active track like their drones to follow a subject using a 1080p live feed. Latency seems quite low and it can be used up to a distance of 100 meters. It's another new gimbal, yes, ×2, but they're both very solid new gimbal options with clever software and design. It does feature improved algorithms for even better stabilization, but the weight is a godsend after handling previous Ronins. It sounds like such a small thing, but the little butt plate knob would make the RS2 the one for me, but to be honest, you can't really go wrong with any of these two new gimbals.